one of the most beautiful areas of Scotland. This area of the UK has got some of the most majestic mountains you can find anywhere, and with the sea views that come with them, it really makes it one of my favourite places in the world. And I've been to Skye. This is the Isle of Skye, and I've been here quite a few times. I've done some winter wild camps where I've camped under the stars on the edge of cliffs with the Cuillin Mountains spread before me. I've even done a ridge traverse many moons ago, and I've had many magical moments standing on top of some of these peaks in the summer, looking out to sea and all the other amazing mountains round about me. It really is just a fantastic place. Lots of teetering going on. You can teeter along the ridge or on exposed ledges. It's just an absolutely fantastic place. You feel like you're on top of the world when you're in Skye. Anyway, I've not been out for since last year, so it's given me a bit of time to look back at some of my old vlogs, and the one that I'm doing today is a re-edit, because when I went back to look at it, it was a fantastic trip, but I just wasn't happy with the way I'd edited the film at the time, and I just thought I could do a better job. So that's why you're watching this video, hopefully still watching it. And yeah, this is a trip which it shows some of the dangers of specifically the Scottish mountains because of the weather climate we're in. It shows you how rapidly the weather can change, as you'll see in the video, from a perfect day to whiteout, maybe not whiteout, but certainly blizzard conditions, which I knew about at the time, but they did change rapidly, and it really was an exciting day because of that. So I'd basically left Perth and driven up the day before up to Glen Shiel, and I remember the drive up being pretty dicey. There'd been a fair bit of snow. I think it was coming in from the east at this specific time, and I can remember at least until, I don't know, Pitlochry, the road was, well, you needed to take care, let's put it that way. And I spent a day in Glen Shiel and did a mountain. It was quite a snowy day that day, and then drove on to Skye, and I stayed in Broadford. I had a really nice accommodation there. I remember that. Anyway, let's cut to me leaving Broadford first thing in the morning and driving along towards the base of the mountain. And as you can probably see, the weather was looking like it was going to be a cracking day. And I was looking forward to getting up and into the snow. So as you can see, the weather was indeed absolutely stunning, and it hadn't taken me too long from leaving the car to hitting that frozen ground and reaching the snowline. And all around, the mountains were capped with a lovely layer of snow, and as the sun started to rise, it started to illuminate these peaks all around me. It really was just one of those days in the mountains. Absolutely lovely, and I was enjoying it immensely at this point. Well, the sun's just crept over this mountain, not to where I am as you can see, but behind me, and I've just had my first glimpse of the main ridge. What a place. There's Marsco, there's the Red Cuillin. In fact, I'm still on the Red Cuillin, but when I get to the top I'll be on the Black Cuillin. Heading up this part of the ridge, as I said, I was still on the Red Cuillin, and at the top of the ridge there's a high point which is, I think it's about 400, just over 400 metres, and there's a little cairn that marks a spot. It's not so much a separate peak in itself, but the top of the ridge before heading onto the mountain proper. But the views here were spectacular, so I stopped for a wee while to take some pictures and just take in the scenery of the grandness of the Isle of Skye. As you can see from this footage, the views to all the other mountains and Cuillin hills of Skye from here were absolutely spectacular. And from here I could also see my objective for the day, Garbh Bheinn, and it was looking very, very appealing. Top of the shoulder, and you see behind me Garbh Bheinn. Looks quite serious actually. Looks really steep from here. It's a simple scramble in the summer, but slightly different proposition. So I'm going to take my time, and if it looks dodgy at all, I'm just by myself and there's nobody else in the mountain. So if it looks a bit tricky, I ain't going up. I'm going to come back. But what a place! Look at this! Woohoo! That cloud sort of covering the Red Cuillin now, so I think the weather's starting to go downhill. So let's see if I can get up here and back down before it turns. So on the final ridge pool now, on the Black Cuillin now, and I just stopped to put my crampons, get my ice axe out, and hopefully I'll not take me too long up here, because there's a bit of wind up there. It looks like there's a bit of spindrift to the top, and I think it's quite narrow, so just I'll take my time, be as safe as I can, and enjoy this, because look at this. Absolutely superb. Anyway, onwards we go. So the first signs that the weather was starting to change was those winds up on the summit, and I could see behind me to the north, over and beyond the Cuillin Mountains, the clouds were starting to gather and they were heading my way. So I was heading up the hill and trying not to stop and look behind me too much, because I knew that weather was going to envelop me at some point during the day, and I was keen to get to the summit before the blizzard started. But with the light at this point behind me, with the black clouds coming in from the north and the light still shining on the white mountains, I couldn't resist a wee stop to take some photographs. It was magical. After taking a few snaps, it was time to get moving and try and get up the top. The top of Garbh Bheinn, the mountain I was going up, has an easy scramble in the summer, but I was more than aware that under a layer of fresh deep snow, that easy scramble might be a little bit more tricky. And I could see the summit ahead of me, and that final ridge up to the summit was the bit that was on my mind at the moment, let's put it that way. The further up the mountain I got, and the light started to fade, and I turned round and looked over my shoulder and just saw the last life of light disappearing with a rainbow sitting over the northern side of Skye, and I watched that disappear, knowing that the sun was gone for the day, and yeah, the bad weather was moving in. Whew, well, I'm on the summit ridge now, not quite there, and what a view behind me, Black Cuillin. Just held out for me getting up here. When I came over the ridge and saw that, woohoo! What a sight! You see Clach Glass, which is a climbing route scramble. Still to do that, Clach Glass Traverse, but it's looking fine. But if you can see what I can see that way, if I spin round, there's the weather, and I think the snow's going to be on for the rest of the day now, so I need to get to the summit and then start heading down. With the views down to Black Cuillin and Clach and over the sea now keeping me company, I had to forget about those really and just concentrate on this final ridge which leads along to the summit. As I mentioned, in the summer it's a hop, skip and a jump, really quite easy, but under all this snow I couldn't see where the rocks were, and it was pretty unconsolidated, fresh snow, so I really had to be very, very careful with all my foot placements, and I kept my pole out just to use it as a prodding stick at this point. Normally, had it been well consolidated snow, I would have put that pole away and just had my axe out. But anyway, it was exciting, and you know the snow hadn't come on yet, so it was, yeah, I was still hopeful of some views from the top. But yeah, this last bit was a bit hairy, and it took me a lot longer than it would have taken me in summer conditions. That's for sure. After a bit of time and some careful teetering along that ridge, the main difficulties were then passed, and the last 20 to 30 metres to the summit were lovely, nice, easy but airy exposed walking along the ridge, and you can see the clouds were still gathering and getting darker and darker behind me. I was certainly glad when I reached the summit of Garbh Bheinn. What a place! Well, here I am on the summit of Garbh Bheinn. Absolutely fantastic. I tell you, that last bit in the winter, oh, that was a knife-edged ridge going along there. It's probably a doddle in the summer, but axe placements were required, so I need to get back down that way now. But wow, what a place! Just a shame the snow's come on now as predicted, but it's so good to be here. Black Cuillin, from the Red Cuillin to the Black Cuillin, and at least I got some views earlier on, so I'm going to put the cameras away now because I really need to concentrate on getting back down, because I think that's the snow on. There's blizzards forecast this afternoon, so time to get off the hill and head to the slide. Woohoo! Enjoying one last view from the summit, I headed back along that knife-edged ridge, and I timed it almost perfectly because the snow was just starting now and I could still see where I was going at this point. The cloud hadn't quite enveloped me. But as I started to descend down the ridge, that weather just enveloped me and the snow got heavier and heavier and those winds whipped up. It just shows you how careful you've got to be in the Scottish hills with these weather conditions. They can change very, very quickly. What a difference a few hours can make. Yeah, it's been snowing since I left the summit. I'm still on the Black Cuillin part of the hill. You can see the shoulder over there, and there's probably been about an inch of snow's fallen. It's been quite heavy, and I'm going to put the camera away now because if you could see it, it's more white than black. But what a difference! It just shows you in Scotland how quickly the weather can change from being a blue sky perfect day to weather you really wouldn't think to be troubling. Yeah, I think I've navigated most of the difficulties now, so head back down, get to the pub. By this time the main difficulties had been passed, and it was quite an easy, well, when I say easy, just I had to be careful of my navigation, but there weren't any knife-edged ridge to avoid, and I headed back down to the car, and then from there I actually spent the next day over at Sligachan pub before heading back home. It was a fantastic day in the hill, and I hope you enjoyed the adventure. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you on the next adventure.